I drive home late after a long shift at the tech firm. This was just a few weeks ago. I'm used to these drives along Highway 47. The quiet was nice, even a little eerie sometimes. The fields and woods rush by in a blur. I thought I could relax, but I was wrong. One night, I saw it. A figure on the side of the road waving. I slowed down, my heart racing. As I got closer, it disappeared like a flicker. I stared at the spot, confused. Did I just imagine it? Maybe I was too tired. The next few weeks were strange. I would hear whispers in my car. They echoed in the silence, but I couldn't understand the words. Shadows flickered in my peripheral vision. They raced beside me. I'd glance over, but nothing was there. My grip tightened on the wheel, my heart pounding. One night I passed a rest area. The lights were flickering. I pulled in to take a break. The place was empty, the silence heavy. The sound of my heartbeat filled the car. Then I saw movement, a blur darting between the trees. I thought maybe it was a deer. I laughed it off, but as I drove away, that uneasy feeling settled in my stomach. I felt cold, even with the heater on. A few nights later, I noticed headlights behind me. A car was following me too closely. I glanced in the rearview mirror, but it was gone. I pulled over, feeling stupid, but no car in sight. My heart raced again as I got back on the road. Was I imagining things? I couldn't tell. Then, one night, it happened. I heard a voice, not on the radio, but right behind me. It was soft. "Help me." My breath caught. I turned quickly, but nothing was there. The darkness swallowed the road behind me. A chill ran down my spine. I slammed on the gas, desperate to escape the feeling that something was after me. I thought back to that first figure. What if it was trying to tell me something? Maybe I was too stressed to see it. The questions spun in my mind. I pressed the gas harder, trying to go faster, but they haunted me. The whispers faded in my ears, but the shadows lurked along the road. I thought I could shake it off, but then I heard it again. "Why are you leaving me?" I looked back. The road was empty, but I still felt eyes on me. Something was out there, watching. I shoved the gas pedal down, racing down the highway. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever it was, wanted something. My heart pounded. Then came the whispers, louder this time. "Help me." It was getting hard to breathe. The night closed in around me, filled with shadows, and I couldn't escape. Something was out there, and I had no idea what it wanted. The next night, I found myself driving home again. I told myself I'd be fine. The sun had set, casting a deep orange glow across the horizon. I felt a bit more at ease until I hit Highway 47. That familiar stretch of road was shadowed, almost threatening in the dark. My pulse quickened. I needed to focus. As I drove, I noticed a strange vibration in my phone. I picked it up, glancing at the screen. A message from my friend Jacob read, "You okay? You seem off lately." I let out a nervous laugh. No point in dragging him into this. I typed back, "I'm good, just tired from work." I hit send and tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. Suddenly, the car headlights flickered. I frowned. Was it just me? The dim light returned to normal, but my anxiety didn't ease. I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see that same car following me again. But the road was empty. Then I saw it, a fleeting glimpse of the figure again. This time a woman. She stood at the edge of the road, her dress flowing gently in the wind. I felt cold sweat on my brow. I slammed my foot on the brake and swerved slightly. Was this a joke? Who would stand out here at this hour? Before I had time to process, she raised her hand, just like before. In that moment, something pulled at me, a strange mix of fear and curiosity. I took a deep breath and pulled over on the side of the road, my heart thudding in my chest. "Hello," I called out, my voice trembling. "Are you okay?" I scanned the area, but she had vanished again. The relief mixed with dread washed over me. I sat there, clutching the wheel. I needed to leave, but my gut told me I couldn't drive off just yet. Then, the air filled with whispers again, echoing in the space around me. "Help me." This time it sounded almost urgent, desperate. "Help me." Before I could react, I spotted someone stumbling out from the trees behind where the figure had stood. My breath hitched. It was a man, dirty and disheveled, his eyes wide with fear. Instinct kicked in, and I leaned out the window, half expecting him to scream or run. "Are you all right?" I shouted, trying to keep my voice steady. He focused on me, eyes wild. "You have to leave. She'll come for you." The words hung in the air. Who was he talking about? 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind. Then everything went dark. The lights of my car flickered off, leaving me in utter blackness. My heart pounded as I struggled to start the engine. I fumbled with the key, panic clawing up my throat. "Stay away from the woods, just drive," he shouted, his voice frantic. In that instant, I felt it again, the weight of eyes watching me. I shifted my gaze toward the trees, feeling as if something was moving just behind the blackness. Without thinking, I cranked the engine. It roared to life, and I slammed the pedal down, jolting forward. Whatever was in those shadows felt closer. I didn't look back. I drove fast, the wind whipping through my hair, the pulse of fear keeping me awake. But just as I thought I had escaped, I caught a glimpse in the rear view. The woman stood at the edge of the road, her gaze locked onto me, eyes filled with a torment I couldn't understand. I gripped the wheel harder, the speed blurring the surroundings. I had to figure out what was going on. What did she want? And why was I pulled into this nightmare? I drove as fast as I could, the sound of the tires screaming against the asphalt. The trees became a dark blur, but I couldn't shake the image of her face from my mind. What did she want? Why did I feel this strange connection to her? After a few miles, my surroundings began to change. The trees thickened again, arching over the road like a tunnel. I forced myself to breathe, focusing on the highway ahead. But every time I glanced in the mirror, there she was, standing still, watching, her expression unreadable. I turned the radio on, trying to drown out the whispers that still echoed in my ears. Static crackled, mixed with the distant sounds of a newscaster's voice. Reported sightings of a woman in white on Highway 47. Authorities advised drivers to keep their distance. My heart dropped. I was not the only one. What I thought was a figment of my imagination had a grain of truth. I pressed my foot down harder on the gas, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I had to get home. I had to get away from this madness. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. Jacob. "Dude, I just heard something about a woman on the radio. Are you sure you're okay?" I felt a chill creep down my spine. I texted back hastily, "Just drive home. I'll be fine." Just then, a blinding light caught my attention. A car. A pickup truck came from the opposite direction, headlights cutting through the darkness. I swerved slightly, desperate for a moment of sanity, a glimpse of safety. Maybe they had seen her too. But as the truck passed, my blood ran cold. The driver was staring at me, wide-eyed, mouth agape. He nodded slowly, and in that instant, he too seemed to share in the knowledge of what was happening. What could he tell me? I calculated my next move. I needed to find a populated area, somewhere I wouldn't feel so exposed. I turned left at the next intersection, hoping to reach a nearby town. But in the rearview mirror, she was gone. Doubt crept in. Had I imagined everything? The man, the whispers, the woman? I tried to quell the rising panic, gripping the steering wheel tighter. I couldn't let this drive me crazy. There had to be a reason for all of this. As I pulled into a gas station, my phone vibrated again. This time, a video from Jacob appeared. It was shaky, but clear enough to see. Footage of a woman in a white dress standing on the highway, waving at passing cars. That's when I saw it. In the distance, the same woman walked along the edge of the road again, the nighttime air swirling around her. I couldn't just sit there and watch. There was something important about her, something I had to understand. As I stepped out of the car, the gas station lights flickered around me, casting eerie shadows. "Wait!" I shouted into the darkness. I felt a pull toward her that I couldn't resist. I needed answers. But the moment I stepped forward, everything changed. The whispers grew louder, surrounding me, filling my mind with chaos. "I'm coming," I whispered, my breath hitching in my chest. That was my last realization before darkness enveloped me again. When I came to, the first thing I noticed was the silence. It felt unnatural, too thick, like the air had been sucked out of the world. I blinked a few times, trying to adjust to the dim light, but I found myself alone in a place that felt both familiar and foreign. I was lying on damp grass, the cold reaching through my clothes. Panic hit me as I shot up into a sitting position. Where was I? I looked around and saw a road about 50 feet from where I was. The gas station was nowhere in sight, and the only illumination came from a distant, flickering streetlight. I rubbed my temples, trying to remember what had happened. Then I heard it. A soft rustling, almost like whispers carried on the wind. My heart raced as I stood up, scanning the area. The woman in white was gone, but my instincts told me she was still close by. The air tingled with a strange energy, the kind that made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. I felt ridiculous for shouting into the emptiness, but I needed to know if I was truly alone. Silence returned, suffocating and heavy. I glanced around, searching for my phone. It was still in my pocket, its screen cracked but thankfully functional. I pulled it out, swiping through my notifications. Another video from Jacob popped up, but the thumbnail made my stomach turn. It showed the woman in white closer this time, her face pale and shadowed, eyes wide and piercing. Without thinking, I clicked play. The audio was chaotic, Jacob's panicked voice mixed with static. "Dude, you're not going to believe what I just saw. She was—" I cut it off, cringing at the thought of what he had experienced. Had I put him at risk by following her? I stuffed the phone back in my pocket, a cold sense of dread washing over me. That's when the whispers returned, clearer this time. "Help. Me." My gaze snapped to the direction of the sound. It was coming from a narrow path leading into the woods near the road. Every rational part of my brain screamed for me to leave, to get back in the car and drive away. But I found my feet moving towards the noise. The connection I felt to this woman was undeniable, and deep down I knew I needed to confront this fear. The path twisted, branches scratching at my arms, the darkness closing in. I peered further into the woods, but there was nothing, not a trace of life. I called out, "Are you there? What do you want from me?" "Help. Me." It echoed again, more urgent now. Was that really her voice? My heart sank at the thought that she might be in trouble. Just then, a shadow flitted across my vision. I turned, adrenaline surging once again. My instincts screamed at me to run, but something on the path caught my eye. A glimmering object shone in the dirt, unobtrusive, yet undeniable. My breath caught. I stepped closer, leaning down to inspect it. It was a locket, old and tarnished. I found myself reaching for it, drawn in. I felt a surge of recognition, almost as if the locket belonged to someone I knew. My fingers brushed against the cool metal when suddenly a figure emerged from the shadows behind me. "Don't touch that!" A voice boomed through the trees, sounding fierce and warning. I froze, my pulse racing once more as uncertainty washed over me. "Who are you?" I yelled, my heart pounding against my chest. I needed answers, but I realized I had stumbled into something much darker than I expected. And that moment of confusion just made me want to run. I hesitated, the locket just inches from my fingers. The voice that warned me was deep and echoed through the trees, causing the branches to tremble. I turned slowly, my eyes adjusting to the shadows. The figure stepped forward, revealing a man wearing a hooded jacket. His face was obscured, but I could see the sharp line of his jaw. "You shouldn't be here. This place isn't safe," he said, urgency seeping into his tone. I wanted to ask why. I wanted to know who he was and how he knew about the locket. But all that came out was, "What do you mean? Where am I? This is where she—" He stopped abruptly, glancing around as if someone might be listening. "Look, you have to go. It's not just whispers, it's worse. You don't want to know what happens to those who linger." Every instinct in my body told me to turn and run, yet curiosity consumed me. "Who are you? Do you know her?" His voice dropped to a whisper. "I used to, a long time ago." He took a step closer, his hood falling back slightly to reveal a pair of haunted eyes. "She was looking for help just like you, but it's too late for her. You don't want to end up like the others." Something twisted in my gut. The others? He took a deep breath, weighing his words. People get lost in these woods. They hear the calls, they want to help, but helping her could cost you everything. You have to leave now. For a moment I considered running, but the locket glimmered under the weak light, tugging at my thoughts. It felt important, like a key to something I needed to understand. "If she's in danger, I can't just walk away." "You think you'll save her? You'll just find yourself trapped," he said, frustration lacing his voice. "Please, just go." Before I could answer, movement behind him caught my eye. A flicker of white darted between the trees, and my heart dropped. It was her, the woman in white. She stood there watching us with those wide, haunted eyes. "Help. Me," she called, her voice hauntingly melodic, yet laced with desperation. I couldn't move. "Don't go to her," the man shouted, but his warning felt distant now. The woman was right there, her figure shimmering like a mirage. "Why? You know her. Why shouldn't I help her?" I yelled back, forcing the words out. "Because she's not what you think." His voice was frantic, laced with panic. There was no time to process his words. I took a step toward her, drawn by a force I couldn't explain. My heart thudded painfully in my chest, but before I could reach her, everything shifted around me. The air thickened, shadows lengthened, and the whispers grew louder, a cacophony of voices crying out for help. That's when I saw it in the distance, a flicker of light deep within the woods, pulsing like a beacon. The woman turned and vanished into the darkness, leaving only fear in her wake. "Stop!" the man roared, but my legs moved as if they had a mind of their own. I couldn't ignore the light. My curiosity overpowered my instincts, pulling me into the depths of the unknown. As I stepped deeper into the woods, the shadows began to close in around me. I couldn't tell if I was following the woman or running towards something far worse. My heart raced, the urgency building. I had to know. But what if I was chasing something that would never let me go? And that thought alone filled me with dread. As I moved further into the woods, the flickering light flickered again, pulling me deeper. The trees towered above me, their gnarled branches stretching like the fingers of a creature ready to snatch me away. I could feel the weight of the dark pressing down, something unseen watching, waiting. The whispers surrounded me now, a confusing blend of cries and murmurs. "Help us. Find her. Don't listen." It felt like they were rising from the shadows themselves, echoing my fears. I stopped, straining to hear, trying to make sense of the chaos. "What is this?" I murmured, my voice swallowed by the dense night. I wanted to turn back. I wanted to escape, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on the brink of a discovery. That light had to mean something. I pressed on, the glow becoming stronger, illuminating more of the path ahead. I stumbled over roots and rocks, my breath coming in quick gasps as fear twisted in my stomach. And then, just ahead, the light burst forth, revealing a small clearing. In the middle stood an ancient stone altar, its surface glistening like it had been recently washed. Candles surrounded it, their flames flickering in the gentle breeze, casting odd shadows that danced along the tree trunks. My heart skipped. Was this some sort of ritual place? Had I stumbled upon something I shouldn't have? Then the figure appeared again, the woman in white. She stood beside the altar, her expression one of deep longing mixed with despair. "You came," she said, her voice soft yet echoing. "Why are you here?" I blurted out, words tumbling out in a rush. "Are you trapped?" She nodded, her eyes wide and pleading. "Please, I need your help. I can't escape until someone understands." "Understands what?" I asked, my fear battling with the empathy rising in my chest. "The pain," she whispered, her gaze drifting to the altar. "It binds me to this place. Only by revealing the truth can I be freed." Suddenly, a chill raced down my spine. I remembered the man's warning. Was I really going to help her? Suddenly the clearing felt less like a sanctuary and more like a trap. I took a step back, my gut screaming at me to leave. "What are you?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "I'm just like you," she replied, her voice wavering. "Lost and searching. But there are forces here that will keep you from seeing the truth." I turned, ready to bolt. But behind me something shifted in the shadows, something with eyes that gleamed like coals in the dark. The whispers swelled into a shriek of chaos as I felt a presence seeping closer, wrapping around me like a vine. "I have to go," I shouted, panic rising. "No," she cried, reaching out. "You have to stay. You're my only hope." Her words dug into my resolve, but I could feel the weight of whatever was lurking behind me. Someone was closing in, and I knew I had to make a choice. Just as I took a step backward, ready to run, something cold gripped my ankle. I let out a gasp as I was yanked to the ground. I glanced at the woman, desperate and terrified. I wanted to help her, but was I already too late? In that moment, deeper shadows swallowed the clearing, plunging me into darkness. And then it hit me. This wasn't just a search for truth. This was a fight for survival. The grip on my ankle tightened, pulling me down into the dirt. I struggled against it, panic flooding my body. "Let me go," I shouted, but my cries were drowned out by the rising cacophony of whispers. They were louder now, almost deafening, a symphony of desperation. Suddenly, vivid images flashed before my eyes, flashes of faces twisted in pain, screams freezing in the air. I could feel their anguish wrap around me, smothering any remaining courage. The woman in white reached towards me, a lifeline in a storm, but I couldn't reach back. "Please," she said, her eyes pleading, "you must understand. They're lost. They cannot rest, and neither can I." The darkness pressed closer, revealing the menacing shapes that writhed in the shadows. My heart raced. I couldn't linger here. I had to escape this hellish place. Ignoring the icy grip on my leg, I scrambled to my feet, my mind racing as I fought through the chaos. I stumbled, entangled in roots and brambles. I glanced back, desperate to understand the woman's story, but she faded into the darkness, her figure becoming just another shade among the shadows. Then I spotted something glinting on the altar. It was a small object, a locket, half uncovered in the damp earth. Without thinking, I reached for it. The moment I touched it, a surge of energy shot up my arm. I gasped, feeling a vision press into my mind, a memory of her from long ago, laughing, dancing in a sunlit field. "Oh my God," I whispered, as the scene shifted into ashes and despair. The laughter twisted into a cry for help, the joyful face replaced by one of fear. I dropped the locket, recoiling as if burned. "What have I done?" I murmured to myself, my thoughts racing. Was this the key to her freedom, or another trap? Whatever dark force held her captive was closing in on me now, mixing with the anguished cries from the shadows. I had to make a choice. Do I stay and uncover this truth, risking my own freedom? Or do I run and leave her trapped forever? Before I could decide, the ground shook beneath me. A deep rumble echoed through the trees as the shadows whipped around, growing more tangible and threatening. My instinct screamed at me to flee, to survive. But the woman's plea still reverberated in my mind. I took a step back, eyes darting toward the forest path. That was my only way out. I turned and dashed into the darkness, branches clawing at my arms, forcing me to move faster. As I ran, the whispers transformed into a susurration, like a mournful choir bidding farewell. No escape, no escape. Suddenly I tripped and stumbled forward, feeling the ground drop beneath me. I looked back just in time to see a long, dark shape erupt from the shadows, stretching toward me like a hand reaching from a nightmare. And that's when the world faded to black. I jolted awake, gasping for air. The weight of darkness pressed around me, thick and stifling. I was sprawled on the ground, branches digging into my back. Panic rose again as I pushed myself up, scanning the dense trees that loomed like giants. Where am I? My voice trembled, swallowed by the eerie silence. I picked myself up, the sharp chill in the air biting at my skin. The whispers from before faded, but left a ringing in my ears. It felt like the night itself held its breath, waiting for the briefest sigh of movement. My heart pounded unevenly, a reminder of the chaos that had enveloped me. I dusted off the dirt from my clothes and took a cautious step forward. A soft glow caught my attention in the distance, like a firefly flickering in the dark. It seemed welcoming, a signal of life in the desolate woods. What if it's just another trap? I thought, hesitating. The memory of the locket and the woman haunted me. I felt guilt wash over me for abandoning her plea for help, but I couldn't linger here. The darkness was suffocating, and the weight of those lost souls pressed heavy on my shoulders. I moved toward the light, each step igniting a blend of hope and fear. As I approached, the glow grew clearer. It came from a small clearing where an old, weathered cabin stood, its windows dimly lit. I could see shadows dancing inside, and I was drawn closer. I knocked softly on the door, half expecting nothing but silence. After a moment it creaked open. A man with wild hair and piercing eyes peered out. His gaze held a mix of curiosity and caution. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice gravelly, like stones crunching beneath a boot. I'm just trying to get out of these woods," I stammered. "I was chased by something. I don't know what it was." He scanned my face as if searching for a truth hidden behind my fear. "What did you see back there?" I hesitated, trying to find the right words. "There was a woman. A spirit, I think. She needed help." "Ah." He stepped aside, gesturing for me to enter. "You should come in. You're not the first to hear her cry. This cabin holds things that don't belong in the living world." Inside, the walls were lined with strange symbols, their meanings elusive. A fire crackled in the hearth, casting flickering shadows. Something about the atmosphere felt charged, like a storm brewing in the distance. "What is this place?" I whispered, my curiosity piqued. "Here, the border between worlds thins," he explained, his voice low. "You might have awakened forces that are better left undisturbed." Fear washed over me as I remembered the grip on my ankle, the dark shape. "What can I do? I can't leave her trapped." The man's eyes softened, but they also bore the weight of 1,000 sorrows. "To free her might take more than you're willing to give. Are you ready for the consequences?" Before I could answer, the temperature in the room dropped, and a chill ran down my spine. The shadows outside thickened, and a low, almost mournful wail resonated through the air. That's when I saw it, a dark figure looming against the window, stretching toward me with ghostly hands. "Get back!" I screamed, but the door slammed shut behind me, sealing my fate. The figure outside pressed against the window, its fingers splayed like roots reaching for soil. I staggered backward, my heart racing as dread curled around my stomach. "Don't let it in!" I shouted, but the man wasn't moving. His attention was fixed on the shadow. "Stay close to me," he finally said, his voice steady despite the chaos. "This is a disruption. We need to calm it." He reached for a small vial sitting on a shelf, lined with peculiar objects, his hands barely trembling. "What are you going to do?" I whispered, the air thick with tension. He turned to face me, worry etching deeper lines into his face. "I need to bind the spirit before it fully crosses into this world. If it breaks through, it will claim you too." That was all I needed to hear. Panic surged. "What can I do? Help me." His urgency snapped me back to reality. "Speak her name. If she hears you, it may ground her." The apparition's eyes, deep voids of despair, bore into mine. I had no name. I only had a haunting echo in my mind. "I can't," I protested, feeling helpless. "Try," he urged, rummaging through a stack of old parchments. "Think." Then I recalled the locket, its fragile weight in my pocket. "Lana!" I screamed suddenly, the name bursting forth as if it had always been there. "Lana, I'm here!" The figure recoiled, its hands retreating for a moment, but the wail intensified, swirling like a tempest around us. "Keep going," the man insisted, pouring a dust-like substance from the vial. As he scattered it, the air shimmered around us, forming a barrier. "Don't stop." I took a breath, my voice gaining strength. "Lana, I'm here to help you. I want to free you." At that moment the shadows thinned, and the dark figure shifted, becoming less defined with every invocation. I could feel the energy in the cabin pulse, like the beat of a heart quickening. Suddenly, the door slammed again, shaking the foundations, and instinct kicked in. I lunged for it, but the man stopped me. "Don't! Focus!" The shadows danced wildly, pressing against the barrier as if desperate to break through. "I can't hold them," he shouted, strain evident on his face. "You have to help me." The figure pressed harder, and dread clawed within me. "What do we do?" "Call her. It's the only way to pull her back." "Lana!" I cried again, my throat raw. "Please come back." For an instant, everything stilled. A flicker of light appeared in the depths of the darkness, and the apparition hesitated as if considering my call. But before I could breathe a sigh of relief, the shadows burst forward. The door rattled violently, and I felt the air shift. Someone, or something, was trying to get in. "Brace yourself," the man warned, just as the door splintered, throwing wood and darkness into the cabin like vicious claws. I was rooted in place, horror and disbelief seizing me. That's when I saw it, the wretched, contorted face of a woman pushing through the door, rage and despair intertwined. My heart sank as the darkness followed her, a relentless tide threatening to engulf everything. With each desperate scream, I felt the ground tremble beneath my feet, as if the very world around me would shatter. The man beside me braced himself, his face set in grim determination as he focused on the swirling force that threatened to pull us into the abyss. "Lana!" I shouted again, my voice barely rising above the cacophony. I was torn between fear and empathy, the haunting desperation of the woman before me pulling me in different directions. I wanted to help her, but I couldn't ignore the darkness that encroached on us. The shadowy figure broke free from the door, swirling with an energy that felt cold and dangerous. I could see its twisted fingers reaching out, clawing at the remnants of light in the cabin. Frantically, I glanced at the man who was chanting incantations under his breath, weaving the threads of desperation from the air. "Focus," he urged, sweat pouring down his brow as he fought against the ever-encroaching darkness. "Lana!" I yelled again, desperation overtaking my nerves. "Please come back. I can help you." The plea hung in the air, echoing as if it resonated with something deep within her fractured spirit. The apparition hesitated. For an agonizing second, a flicker of recognition crossed her gnarled features. It was as if she could hear my voice beneath the layers of torment that bound her. "Help me," she rasped, her voice barely audible, fragmented by the chaos. "Keep calling her!" the man urged, desperately throwing more of the shimmering powder against the spirit's wrath. "You're close! Lana, please!" I croaked as the shadows pressed in, wrapping around me, threatening to snuff out my resolve. "Don't let them take you!" But the storm of darkness swept closer, feeding on my fear, gnashing its teeth and whispering words that poured into my ears like venom. "Leave! You'll be lost like her." The horror of what I faced terrified me. I had stumbled into something far beyond my understanding, and the choice ahead felt blurred. But I couldn't back down now, not after everything. I thought of the locket's weight in my pocket, and the connection I felt to her. "I'm not leaving you," I screamed into the spiraling chaos, driven by an instinct to reach her. "I know your name. I won't forget you." For a moment, the dark figure flickered, wavering in its relentless advance, as if struggling against the resonance of my call. "Lana, I'm here for you," I said, anchoring my fear into words meant for her alone. "You don't have to be alone anymore. Let me help you break free." With each repetition of her name, it felt like the very fabric of the shadows struggled against the reality I was imposing. The darkness recoiled, a wave of uncertainty shrouding it. Then there was a moment, a crack in the storm like daylight breaking through the clouds. The woman's shape twisted, almost recognizable, and I could swear I saw her eyes glimmer momentarily with clarity. "Help. Me," she pleaded again, her voice emerging from the turmoil as a whisper, soft yet fierce. "Lana," I called again, feeling the weight of every lost soul around us merge into a singular purpose. "I can help you escape this." The shadows strained against my declaration, condensing into spikes that lunged at me, only to be halted by the man's powerful barrier. But it wouldn't last. The cabin trembled in response to their fury. "You have to do it now," he yelled, the exertion evident in his voice. "Now, before it consumes us both." Sensing the urgency, I gathered every ounce of strength and purpose left in me. "Remember who you are," I shouted to the flickering figure, my heart racing. "You were loved. You were not forgotten. You are more than this darkness." In that instant, the air around us crackled with tension, the whispers clashing against echoes of hope. Without hesitation, I reached for the locket in my pocket, feeling the cool metal against my palm. I held it up like a beacon of truth, searching for the connection between us. "Lana!" I shouted one last time, pouring everything I had into her name. "I'm here for you. You don't have to be trapped." The shadows erupted in chaos, a spiraling tempest of anguished cries erupting into violent sounds. The man beside me raised his arms, chanting louder as he pushed back against the darkness. I gripped the locket tightly, and as the chaos wrapped around my heart, I felt a surge of warmth. The figure stilled, her eyes widening in surprise, the shadows hesitating. Gradually, the phantom began to take the shape of the woman I'd seen on the side of the road. Familiar, yet lost. "Help me," she echoed one last time, her plea rising above the frenzy. The cabin's atmosphere shifted. My surroundings felt lighter, filled with glowing energy, and a flicker of hope ignited within my core. The darkness howled, desperately trying to reclaim its hold on us, but bolstered by the connection, I felt her reach toward me, straining against the night. I felt a pull, a rending of the veil, as magical threads of desire for the light intertwined around us. "Come back," I shouted, pulling as fiercely as I could, urging her to break through. The shadows shrieked, the echoes shattering like glass, and in one breathtaking moment it all imploded, and suddenly, silence. I fell to my knees, gasping for breath. The cabin felt suffocating, but the overwhelming weight was gone. I looked up to see the man beside me, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Did we—" I started, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded, watching intently as the last remnants of shadow drifted away into the night. "But the cost is high," he murmured, and I felt the dread return. "What does that mean?" I asked, searching for clarity. Before he could respond, I felt it, an unsettling chill creeping back into the room. The lantern lights flickered, and suddenly the whispers from before returned, filling the air around us. "I'm still here," a voice echoed, but I couldn't tell if it was from the shadows or a deeper part of me. The man turned to the flickering windows. "You need to leave before it finds you." My heart sank. The lingering sentiment in the air began to throb with uncertainty as I pushed myself to my feet. "But what happens now?" "I don't know," he replied grimly. "But whatever you do, don't look back." With those final words, I turned and ran. The door swung open, light pouring in, but behind me a darkness lurked, whispering my name, a reminder that some questions would remain unanswered, and the shadowed connections would linger. I burst through the woods, heart racing, unsure of where I was running to, but knowing that escaping the woods was the only path left. I could still hear the echoes of the whispers carving through the trees, mingling with the emotion that wrapped around me like a cloak. I didn't look back, my feet pounding against the earth, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the connection to her, to Lana, would forever linger like the unresolved truths hovering just out of reach. As I finally stepped back onto the asphalt of the highway, the haunting whispers trailed behind, echoing the sensation that some part of me would always remain entangled in that forest, woven into the fabric of darkness and light.